What is up, guys, from Sydney, Australia? In today's episode of More Power Talk, we have a very special guest on, Sally McGrath. She is a local here in Sydney. She is an author, she's a business owner, and today we're going to be talking about how to get started, how to get moving. We're going to kick your butt. Let's do this. All right, guys, welcome to this special episode of the podcast. We have Sally McGrath with her new book, Health That Heals. We are actually here in Sydney. Sally, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Terry.
Yeah.
How exciting.
Yeah. So I know that this is kind of a new thing for you, a new venture for you. This wasn't always your dream to write a book, to be an author, to have your own company, things like that. Can you kind of walk me back, and how did we work to get to this point?
Sure. Well, it's quite a story in itself. So for a long time I've had an interest and a passion in health and fitness and well-being. Always been one to exercise and watch what I eat, and not afraid to share that knowledge with people that are close to me. My family can certainly vouch for that.
Yeah.
And I think, I know, Health That Heals has been a culmination of life events for me. I have been through, a myriad of health-related challenges. Sorry, that's Molly just saying
That's okay.
Hello to some...
We have our puppy Molly with us on the podcast. I'm a dog lover, so.
So I've had a lifelong interest in health and well-being. One of my childhood dreams was to be a flight attendant. I used to fly quite a lot as a child. My family moved up and down the east coast of Australia buying and selling businesses, so consequently my sister and I were spending quite a lot of time toing and froing to family and friends, especially during school holidays. And so that I guess that's when the impression was made on me. The flight attendants were always really lovely, and so that became one of my dream jobs. So did that, loved that, and then I went into the corporate world, as you do, and
as everyone does, right? And as you're supposed to do.
What
do you do now? We go to the corporate world, right? Like, okay, totally. I guess it's time to be an adult now.
Totally, Jerry. Yeah, maybe I need to grow up now. So I went and did that, and I've just always felt like a square peg in a round hole. I just didn't fit. I was capable and able to do, to push forward and climb the ladder and do all that, but it was just never fulfilling. And
particularly, what was this like job or this thing that you did as the corporate job? What were you doing?
I did a few things. My background was as a PA. I was always my organisation was always very much my strength, so I channeled that. And I went into advertising. I was a PA. I went into marketing. I tried my hand at HR, thinking industry would fix the problem, and then I landed in commercial property. Always very much in that organisational, general management, operational role. So, which was good, and I won't deny there was definitely some career highlights there, but it wasn't my dream.
Right.
So.
And what did that feel like? Was there like a specific feeling? Was it like an emptiness, or was it like there's something else, or was it just like, damn it, I gotta get out of this and do something different?
Yeah, it was just, I've just felt like I was constantly chasing someone else's dream, not mine. Okay. That's the best way I can describe it.
And is there like a particular person that had that impression on you that you felt like this, like I have to please mom or I have to please dad, or is there anything like that you said, like you felt like you were chasing somebody else's dream? Was it society's dream that you were chasing, or?
I think it was a perception that I had of myself. To be deemed successful, you had to have an amazing job, you had to have an amazing, it was all materialistic.
Right.
Great house, great partner, great this, great that, picture perfect.
Right.
Which I write about in my book. And it just became, don't get me wrong, I had some amazing experiences and I regret nothing. I'm a big believer in not living with regret. It is what it is, and there's some good, some great, and some ugly, and some bits in between. Right. But it's definitely taught me through some other situations that have eventuated since then that I think, that career drive didn't help. You know, basically it drove me into a breakdown, and I thought, okay, something's got to give here. And just, that's when I just literally hit the bottom. And thought, okay, you've got two choices here, girlfriend. You can, what I call, go fetal, crawl into the fetal position and hide away.
Have some pizza, some Netflix time.
Or you can choose to go, okay, this isn't working for me. What will? I don't know, but I'm going to find out what will. And that's pretty much the path I took.
And I know I've realized that, like, with a lot of people that go out and do things like this, that was boiled out of the experience, like you said, like mostly the bads. Usually there's always like lessons, like big lessons in bad things that happen or in hardship. Is there anything that particularly, like, in your life that was like one of those things that at the time you were like, this is like, I'm in such a terrible spot, this is the worst thing ever, and then now you look back on it and realize that it made you a better person, or it made you who you are today?
Absolutely, yeah. It. I think the biggest. How would I describe it? The biggest change for me was the breakdown of my marriage. And when I left my marriage, I had no business, I had no relationship, and I literally started again.
Started at zero.
Rebuilding my life.
Right.
And as much as I look back now and think, wow, I don't know how I did it, how I functioned in those early days, I look back and I'm grateful for the experience.
Right.
You know, it's certainly been a huge personal growth chapter in my life, and one that has definitely propelled me forward. It's made me confront a lot of fears that I've had. And just start to learn to believe in myself. I think that's the fundamental underlying message for me, is that I didn't believe in myself. I didn't even love myself. Right. So I had to go back to basics and learn again. And
with that picture perfect like scenario that's laid out for us of the husband or the wife and the job and the perfect house and the penthouse, that makes it hard for you to be happy and really have confidence in yourself when you're not fulfilling those things. And then when you do fulfill those things, it's like, okay, is this what it is? You know, is that where that fear came from, that you weren't having those experiences, that weren't meeting that criteria?
I think the fear just came from self-doubt, and I just never believed I was good enough. I wasn't good enough. And you know, when I did achieve success, it was like, well, that's not enough. You need more. You need more. You need more. It was just like this unfulfilling bucket that just didn't ever fill up. Right. Because fundamentally I was miserable. Yeah. And is there a place, do you think, that like, were you able to like go back and say that I think this is why I didn't have the confidence at that time to really, you know, believe in myself and believe in what I was doing? Yeah, there's a lot of other factors that were playing into that I think that, well, not I think, that were playing into that fear. There's no doubt about that. And they were not necessarily all my own fears. They were fears that I was living with, you know, around me. Yeah. Some toxic people in my life at the time. Again, I write about that. Yeah. And just how much impact those people can have. Sometimes you're not even aware, but yeah, those people can have a huge impact, not only on you, but people around you that you care about. And what specific, like you said that you're unaware of these things, and I know exactly what you're talking about, but if you had to elaborate on that more, what type of actions or what kind of things would they be pushing on you or kind of putting into your subconscious that at the time maybe you didn't know, and now you look back and like, oh, this was really bad? What would I think one situation that comes to mind, I won't go into details, but an example, Jerry, if you like, is projecting onto you some of their fears. or their insecurities, and I found that in some cases, I'm quite a intuitive individual, so I would often take that on.
Right.
And I think sometimes I took way too much on.
And it's hard when you're in the situation not to subconsciously like kind of think maybe they're right, like maybe I can't write a book, maybe I shouldn't open my own business, maybe I shouldn't do this, and then you sleep it off, and then the next day it's planted in there, right? It's just, and then it just layers and layers and layers. Yeah, I found that too when for me traveling, for example, I have that same situation. I have some friends that are like supremely supportive of me, and they want to talk to me every week, and they want to know like, where have you been and who have you talked to, and like, how's everything going? And then I have the other friends that, just kind of distance themselves away. And it's kind of the same feeling that, those negative influences, that are coming from the outside. And I really experienced that when I was by myself alone, out here without all of everything else going around. So going back to fear, because this one is a huge one for me. I think that people are highly controlled by fear, like what they do, what they don't do. Everything I feel like is some sort of fear, some driven fear. And like, how would you describe fear if you had to give it a definition?
Funny you say that, because just before I left to come and meet with you, I was looking on my fridge, and I've got this, I've got a magnet. Molly, I've got a magnet on my fridge. A girlfriend gave it to me, and it says, courage doesn't mean you've beaten fear, it just means you, and I'm not saying it verbatim.
Right.
Courage doesn't mean you've beaten fear, it means you're not letting it beat you.
Okay.
Something to that effect. And it's so true, because, sure, there is still some fears, but I think you learn to become aware of the fear, and you go, yep, okay, you're there. I know you're there, but I've got this. And that's what I generally say to myself. If I start to feel a little bit fearful, for want of a better term,
right?
I just acknowledge it, and say, yep, okay, that's cool,
okay,
that's there, but I've got this situation, I can handle this.
It's almost like the guard on your shoulder saying, hey, this might turn into something painful.
Absolutely.
You might want to think about stopping.
Absolutely. Careful, you're going outside your comfort zone.
Right.
Good things might happen.
Right. Right. That too. And how do you feel about that? Because I think that's a really interesting thing. People fearing too much of good happening to them. Do you have any belief on that, or too much success, where they find kind of their comfort zone, right? This is it right here inside of their comfort zone. And when things start to get better for them, when they kind of leap out of that comfort zone, they almost self-sabotage to kind of pull themselves back. How do you feel about situations like that? I can wholeheartedly relate to that, because when I look at my previous self, if you like, or my old self, I would, things would be ticking along really nicely, and you're feeling positive and you're feeling upbeat, and then you just get that little thought going through your head, and it's like, well, enjoy this, because it won't last for long. Make the most of it. Okay.
And it's funny, because I haven't had that thought certainly loudly for a couple of years now, which is awesome. And
that's awesome. That's really nice.
But again, it's like fear, it's still there, and it's just a case of managing it. And I acknowledge it, and I go, I can hear you there. Probably sounds a little bit crazy person talking to myself.
I don't think it does at all.
I don't care.
Me as Jerry, trust me, it does. None of this talk sounds crazy.
I don't care. It works. So
I think it's whatever works for you. And for me, I just try to really rationalize it. I look at it and I say, Jerry, I know you're feeling scared right now, but is this fear real at all? If you go up and talk to this person, or if you try this and something, what is the worst case scenario that happens? And they're like, okay, can you live with that? I guess so. But no, I think fear it's so interesting to me, how fear is such a driver.
Huge driver in a lot of people. So I think the key thing is you just, again, you acknowledge it and you go, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing, but you know what, I don't need you anymore. Thank you, thanks for looking after me, but you just stay in the background there. I don't need you now. I've got this.
So you think that's the way for you, is you acknowledge it's there, and then you just kind of say that we don't need you, and to kind of move forward and and that's what kind of helps you get through that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just I think the other thing I do daily, and this is all lessons from amazing people that I've met along this journey, and applying it daily, consistently, regularly, and believing it. I think that's a fundamental in making any change. You have to believe it. So I have a daily mantra, and I will not allow myself to get out of bed. It doesn't matter what time it is until I've said that in my head, and said it to the point where I believe it. And if I'm not convinced I believe it, I say it out loud, because when you say it out loud, there's just a connection, and you start to believe you actually feel what you're saying.
Right. Yeah.
So and then I think if I'm still not convinced that I've heard my mantra, I'll actually speak it to myself in the mirror.
And is this a private mantra, or is this something you can share with us? If it's private, I totally get it.
Yeah, look, it's a little bit private.
I totally get it. No worries.
I've got some mantras that I share in my book. This one for me at the moment is quite new, so it is a little bit private.
You're experimenting still.
Yeah.
Okay.
Happy to share in book 2.
There we go. Book 2, guys, is coming out.
Let me just keep trialing it a bit more first. But yeah, I do share some mantras.
So
in my book.
So the process of change, like you said, it's a daily habit for sure, and it's almost like repetitions over and over and over again. Is there, like, do you have a belief on a set time frame or a set schedule, or what is kind of what your change look like from an outsider's point of view? If they looked at it systematically and said, okay, this is how she made the change, what would that look like?
I think the timing is different for each person, Jerry. For me, it was gradual change initially, and then I think in the last 12 to 18 months there's been momentum building, and the stronger I became physically and emotionally, the more I took on, and I just embraced learning new things, personal development, study, learning, growing, meeting different people, just literally putting myself in a space where I was safe but challenging myself. And I tried to do that daily. The other thing that I won't deny was a huge part in my healing is little Miss Molly here. Just because
puppies are the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to take her out for a walk.
Yeah.
Rain, hail or shine, she needs to go out.
Yeah.
And some days she is the only reason I got out. I'd hide, I'd cover my face, I'd hide my body in clothes, but
so you were in a real dark place then. It was very dark.
And I'm not ashamed to say, because I've come through it, I was very dependent on alcohol.
Yeah.
And I think had drugs been nearby, I probably would have had an issue with that too, because I was numbing everything.
Right, you wanted to be out, you just didn't want to feel it.
No.
Yeah.
Gives me goosebumps thinking about it now. I was numbing everything because I just thought, okay, how am I going to get through this? Okay, just numb. Numb, and then we'll deal with it tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Right. So you're in this very depressed state, like everything's happening. How do you kick out of that? I mean, did you have help with this? Was it your friends, or was it just you one day? So like, screw this, like this is not happening anymore. Like, was it that simple, or for you, or was it more of a process?
No, I think it was a process. There's no doubt about that. And I would, you would come up a little bit, on a scale of 1 to 10. Molly. On a scale of 1 to 10. Good girl, come on. On a scale of 1 to 10, it might be, some days it'd be a 6, other days it'd be an 8. And where I really wanted to get was to a 7. So because I felt 7, if you're feeling rough, you can push yourself to become up to a 10. And I just thought, the only way is up. I'd had some very strong conversations with myself. I would allow myself, on a really bad day, I would allow myself what I call the 5-minute pity party. So I could have 5 minutes to feel sorry for myself, cry, whatever I felt like doing in the privacy of my own space. And then it was like, and then I said to myself, okay, Sally, that's done. Now you go up to at least an 8. Come on, you can do this.
I heard an interesting saying about like grief and crying and stuff like that it was almost like if you block it out, it was painful for your body to block it out, but if you give it its time and respect and let it run through you, then you can kind of move forward. I'm not a crier myself, but you know, I've heard that helps a lot of people, just to say, okay, do it, you know, and be done with it. You know, us guys, we have to like, I'm gonna cry. But yeah, it was really interesting to me to hear that point, that it almost, she gave it like a physical, you know, being and a feeling, you know, it was real, and you have to respect that, and say that, just like you said, you have to acknowledge what's happening instead of blocking it out and, you know, saying, I'm not feeling this way, I'm not feeling this way.
Yeah. And it could have been, you know, it could have been my stuff, it could have been stuff that happened. I mean, some days I remember crying because, you know, I was so inward that I thought, you know, someone ignoring me because they didn't see me, you know, that would just undo me. Because I was just so inwardly broken. So yeah, I definitely had some very stern conversations with myself. And I just got to the point where I started writing stuff down.
Nice, awesome.
Yeah, and I found over the years that's what I've done. I just write stuff down, because then it's out of your head. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to flow. Just get it out. I've started journaling myself
a few months ago, and it was the best thing for me. And it took me a week or 2 weeks to commit to it. I forced myself, because I would always like journal 1 day or 2 days, and then I would stop, and then 1 day, 2 days, and stop. And I did this for years. And then finally I said, okay, I'm journaling for 2 weeks, no matter what I have to say. And then by the 10th day, I was waking up the next day like, okay, like I have to get these, like I want to sit down, and it was like a deep inner reflection. It's really nice, like such a relief, and like such an awesome way to start the morning, just to get those thoughts out, and you don't feel like you have that clutter that you have to remember. You know, important things, here they are. Not important things that you want to get away from, here they are, done, get them out of your head.
Totally. No, I'm a big believer in writing stuff down, and you know, just pop it in. I always say to my clients, you know, find a lovely book that you resonate with the cover. It might say something, it might have a lovely picture, have a favourite pen, whether it's your favourite colour or it's just a beautiful pen you like to write with. One of my clients mentioned the other day, she said, oh, my son gave me a pen, how can I use that one? I said, that's perfect, that's beautiful. Oops, I said perfect. I'm very careful with using.
You don't like the word perfect?
I'm just mindful. I'm just mindful that it can convey unrealistic expectations. So I'm just very careful how I use it. But yeah, in that case, I thought it was perfect. Yes. With words, I feel like it's always the intent of words, right? I mean, you can construe words in 20 different ways to mean 20 different things, but like whatever your intention is, I think I feel strongly about the intent of what you're trying to say. Correct.
Correct. So let's say that there's somebody out there, somebody listening right now, that they're kind of in that place. Do you have any 1 or 2 things, like very simple, applicable things that they could take on right now to start, you know, progressing and getting out of that spot?
I think the key lesson I would say to anybody who's in a dark place or a space, you know, where they're in pain, is, and I write it in my books, I've written it in yours there, Jerry. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself is probably my overarching mantra. Doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, who you're talking to, be kind to you. If you're kind to you, it'll resonate, it'll go out.
And like
come
yourself.
Back. And like yourself, definitely. And I think by being kind to yourself, that will inherently help you to like yourself.
Right. Now, I'm going to say something that may sound crazy here. So I feel like society almost puts us in a position where we are hard on ourselves. and we are almost not allowed to feel good about our successes, to where, you know, if you do something great, like let's say you have the greatest accomplishment and you go out to a party and you're like, man, I'm so excited, like I just did this, and then you tell somebody else at the party like, man, I'm so excited, and then they're like, man, they're so full of themselves.
Yeah.
It's almost like a negative connotation to feeling good about yourself. And I don't know, I've been playing with that idea that if like society almost puts that on us to not allow us to feel like that.
I think you've raised a really valid point, and yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Certainly in experiences I've had in the Western world. In Australia, I don't know if you've heard it during your travels, Jerry, but there's an expression called the tall poppy syndrome.
Okay.
Which effectively means if you rise up, we'll push you down. We won't let you get too big for your boots, you know, too confident, too cocky, too whatever. And I really struggle with that, because I think, you know, Australia's an amazing country and we have some hugely intelligent, successful people in the country. Let's work with them, not bring them down.
I hate it so much. Like this plays with me so much because I know like the exact circumstance, like all of that. You know, I lived it growing up in the U.S. I experienced similar things where it was like, if you do, like, nobody wants you to be doing bad, but nobody wants you to excel past everybody. You know, and that's where it becomes really hard to find those people who can support you, because you need that support system to be like, keep going, keep going. Not, hey, you know, maybe we should do this instead, or maybe you can't do this, kind of instilling that fear inside of you.
Yeah, and I think that too is what I found is that when you're going through a change like I had or have, you do tend to distance from people that have that negative energy. It's not that you don't want to know them anymore,
right?
But I think for a period of time it's a self-preservation,
right?
And for you to grow and heal, in the case that I'm specifically talking about here, you need to distance yourself from the negativity because it's not going to work. Right.
And these people could be your best friends. They could be your friends for life.
Yeah.
That you've had your entire life.
Yep.
And it's very hard.
Yeah.
It's extremely hard.
Yeah. It is. And not indifferent to what you were saying before. You know, some people are wanting to know where you are, what you're doing, what you're learning, what you're seeing, what you're experiencing along your travels, and others are, you know, perhaps they're caught up in their lives, and that's okay as well. Yeah. But I think the negativity too sometimes comes from their fear or their insecurity, or in some cases, sadly, their envy that you're doing perhaps something that they would love to do but don't have the courage yet to do. Yeah, and it's always the battle of you want to bring them up, and eventually it's like, okay, they're not coming with me. They just want to keep pulling down and staying again in that comfort zone that I don't want to be in anymore. Yeah. So I think gently, but the best way you can is just to distance and let go a little bit. It's not to say that you never say never. You close the friendship, but while you're going through your journey, I think it's the only way forward. Yeah. And do you have any tips for cutting a friend like that? Let's say it's been a friend for a long time and you feel it, like you feel like, hey, this needs to, for my personal growth, or for my, like you said, your self-preservation. Do you have any tips for anybody like that needs to make that step? I think if the person is, and I'll only speak from my experience, I won't, tell anybody what to do. I'll share suggestions. And that's all we can do, right? Yeah. From the experiences that I had, the people that were what I described as, in my mind, as toxic, which meant that they were just ultra negative and serving absolutely no purpose to my healing journey. Right. I just had to cut. I didn't necessarily go, right, we're not friends anymore. I just had to, because I spent I spent my energy focusing on healing. They generally drifted away.
Okay.
And I didn't reach out to connect with them.
So kind of just focus on where you want to go.
Yeah, focus on the positive. And the negative you'll find will drift away.
Yeah.
I do talk with my hands a little bit.
I do so much. I'm trying so hard right now to not be like, and so we were talking. If you watch any of my videos, I'm like this the whole time. Yeah.
Same. So
yeah.
I do suggest align yourself with people that are going to support you along this journey, and that may change through the journey, and that's okay. You will meet new people. You will move in different spaces to meet different people, and there will be some people that fall away.
Yeah.
Not necessarily forever, but I had some beautiful friends that I was quite honest. I just said, look, I love you. I want to see you. I'm not in a great space, but I will reach out when I've got the strength and I've got some energy to give our friendship. I'm not seeing you.
Right.
And I wasn't distancing because I didn't want to see them or they were negative in this case. It was more because I just didn't have the energy.
Right.
And I'm a person who lives life 100% or 100+%, and if I can't give 100% energy to my friends when I'm with them, then I'd rather not see them.
Yeah.
I'm not someone that'll turn up and go, oh yeah, it's okay, yeah. No, it's all or nothing.
And I think that's a beautiful way to put it. I mean, I think that's your perfect filter on your friendship, right? If you say this to the person, they respect that, and they reach back out to you and they want to, make this friendship happen later down the road, they check on you, I think you have a good friend.
Absolutely.
And then vice versa, if the person's gone, then, well, now you know.
Yeah.
That they were in it for, whatever that negative energy or whatever it may have been.
Yeah.
I think that's a great filter.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's fast forward now. So we have this is your business. You have a lot of stuff going on. Tell me about the experience of starting this, the Health That Heals, starting writing the book. How let's walk through that whole tornado.
Okay. Health That Heals came about early this year. I had set up the business. It just didn't have a name. And I remember thinking of business names and doing research on the internet and other, health-related businesses, and it was actually quite out of the blue. And I thought, I wrote down a few, and Health That Heals was in amongst it. Yeah. And I actually ran them by my coach at the time. I'm a big believer in working with a coach, be it a life coach or a business coach, or depending on where you're at, both. I find that as a coach myself, I find it best practice, but as an individual, I think it just helps you propel forward. Do you think that's just like a rational set of eyes on what you're doing, a less emotional set of eyes? Yeah, definitely. And very much in the early days, accountability, which is critical. So Health That Heals was in the list, and I remember chatting to her. We had a phone call, and she said, okay, so what about the business name? We were going through what I had to do by this coaching session. Yes, I've done that. Yes, I've done that. Yes, I've done that. Business name. Yeah, well, I've got about, I think I had 6 or 10 that I'd shortlisted. And she said, okay, let's run through them. So I ran through them. I said, I'm actually not sure about this one, but what do you think? And I said, Health That Heals. And to her credit, she said, why not? She said, I think it works. Yeah. And because, when you're so close to it, and you just, it was 100%. Yeah. It just was like, so maybe there's maybe this, maybe that, and what about this? Yeah. It's not jumping in my face. Why? Yeah. But then when I distanced myself, and she said, look, sleep on it. I think that's the best thing. And then tomorrow you wake up and do you still like the tattoo or do you not like the tattoo? Was it a mistake? Too late. Right. Health That Heals it became, and it just felt right. And I thought, this And then my business brain kicked in and I thought, yeah, I can do this and I can do this and I can do this and I can do this. So needless to say, our next session
And then
was...
just all ends, just full force at it then.
Yeah, well, I'd always wanted to write a book, and there's a few different books that I'd started to write. And I came across this lady who'd written books, several books, and she was providing doing a workshop actually in Sydney, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go.
Yeah.
I've got nothing to lose. I'm just going to go, see what happens. Needless to say, Natasha Denman is the genius behind me writing a book.
Yeah.
And her business partner and husband, Stuart. And yeah, I can't speak highly enough about the experience I had with them, and with credit to them, that's how my book came about.
Yeah. Awesome.
So yeah, it's been a huge year, the book, completing my Institute of Integrative Nutrition study and online through the school in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of personal stuff, huge amount of personal growth and development.
So where does this propel you in the future? Let's say, you know, the book launch is going to go how the book launch is going to go. You can't control that anymore. This for me is a success. I mean, you have the book. I mean, this is very impressive.
Yeah.
So you know, you have to feel awesome about it. I mean, I know what kind of time I don't know what kind of time it takes to do this, but I can imagine, you know, the time and the effort. Where does this take you down the road? 5 years, 10 years?
5 years, 10 years, I would like to be helping others put their lives back on track when they've been through painful or traumatic situations.
Yeah.
That's my passion. Starting with next year, I'll be rolling out workshops and retreats to share the experience and ideally the transformation that people can experience if they commit to the process and work through it. There will be book 2.
Excellent. That's great.
Yeah.
Very impressive already.
Thank
Haven't
you.
launched number 1, you're like, let's do number 2. That's how you know you found something that's great, right?
True.
You're like, let's keep doing this. I don't want to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Awesome.
One of the highlights for me, I was only telling a friend yesterday, was I was checking with the publisher the progress of my book, and I said, any updates on the delivery, when it will, the week of it will arrive. And they said, well, Sally, we've just received the copies that go to the state and national libraries.
Yeah.
And we have to submit those. And that was the moment I thought, oh my goodness.
It's happening. It's in the library.
It's real. My legacy is here.
Yeah.
To me, that was I've accomplished what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
If my words then can go on and help others, I'm humbled.
Right.
More than humbled. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So inside of this book, tell me the best applicable step that people can take. Your favorite thing in here, your favorite tip in here, that people could take right now today.
Whatever's on your mind that's really holding you back, write it down.
Write it down.
Yep.
Write it down. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys, you heard it here. Write it down. Sally, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you,
This was
Jerry.
amazing.
That's awesome.
Okay, so tell us, how can we get this book? If these guys out here want this book, want the copy of Healthy Heals, how can we get it?
You can go to my website, and there's a tab called Buy My Book.
Okay, and the website is?
The website is healththatheals.com.au.
Yes,
So
the .au is on the end for sure.
Correct.
Yes, the US we don't have .us or nothing. It's just
no, it's
.com.
definitely
Yes.
.au.
So healthyheals.com.au.
.au. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then you guys can learn more about Sally. You guys can reach out to her for consults. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome, fantastic. You guys can buy the book there. Again, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the best with this. I'm definitely going to read this and get back to you on it.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right, guys. We will see you guys in the next episode.
See you.